Good day, it's a great day in the Clink, and today we debunk load management, a topic we've covered here before. But this time it's inspired by a video I watched today, one of the best series of the entire offseason by Samson Folk over at Raptors Republic, doing his podcast with different people that cover different teams in the NBA. If you haven't watched this series, guys, he's done an amazing job, and it's really made the offseason really enjoyable, and it's offset the kind of like ridiculous Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to Toronto videos that are out there. Today he dropped one from the Clippers, and I was inspired to write a freaking novel, which I don't know if I'm gonna hit like actually send, because it's a freaking novel. Partway through it, I realized I have all this load management shit on my chest and I need to get it off. So for today's video, I'm simply going to read what I might post on Samson's video as a comment, but it's really a freaking Bible and manifesto on load management. In it, I discuss some of the concepts that we've discussed on this channel since I started it, in an effort to learn how to make videos in general using my muse, the Raptors. I hope that some of the things that I say in this letter inspire you to be pissed off enough to get in the discussion and tell me what you think. In addition to that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for helping me on my journey to make this channel I'm proud of. Yes, not bad. I started out this channel learning how to make videos so that I could do it for my cooking business and do online cooking. But here we are, I'm almost at 500 subs, and I didn't set out to be a YouTuber for freaking Raptors videos. So thank you, and now I have a contest for you. The Gubstown Clink Road to 1,000 Subs contest.
Gubs! Bonjour!
Alright, so here it is.
So I'm a Raptors 905 fan for sure, and this year we've got season tickets. We're gonna be sitting right at this seat right here, and I'm gonna be giving away free 4-packs to some of these games this year for the home games. So you'll be sitting right here. It's a great vantage point, guys, and if you want to learn how to do it, all you need to do is like and sub, go to the chapter at the end of the video that talks about the contest, and you can sit right here. It's a great vantage point, guys, and all you have to do is follow the instructions, and you can be down watching Delano, Justin if they make the team. You could even get your jersey signed like I did, maybe see Nav, go with your family, sit at the table, and have a fantastic time. So I've also got some Scottie Barnes jerseys. You'll see Brooke and I at the game maybe, and I've even got a double date with this crazy guy, the Raptors freak, Alexios, for November 4th, buddy. We'll see you there. So if you're interested in 905 tickets or Scottie Barnes jerseys, help me get to 1,000 subs, and incrementally along the way, we'll be giving out tickets to some of these games. The first home game is against the Knicks on November 10th. I'm hoping to give away a set of tickets before that, and we will raffle them all off. Anyone that follows the instructions will be entered with their bingo ball into my bingo wheel, and we'll figure out who gets to go to the 10th. And then there's games all season long at Paramount Fine Food Center. So look forward to seeing you guys there. Without further ado, let's get to load management. So here's the letter that I wrote to Samson. Another awesome peek into another non-Raptors roster. Samson, you're the artificer of the best Raptors-centric pod series available at the moment. It has genuinely made the offseason more enjoyable for so many of us. Thanks. And Samson, if you're watching, this is sincere. I'm just looking to shoot the shit based on topics you bring up. I would never aim to offend. Cheers. And thanks, Samson Folk is honestly a gem. In regards to this episode, I think it touches on a very relevant issue of load management, which is of some interest here in the North, and at least one half of the Staples Center, meaning the Clippers. I don't know about those Lakers. This is something I think a lot of fans and even professional NBA analysts don't really have their heads around. In Toronto, we got front row seats to how the top brass in Toronto handled Kalo and Kawhi in 2019. The following rant is about what the Raps actually did in 2019 and ever since then, with their top players and how reality differs from the mainstream narrative regarding load management and the idea that injury is necessarily correlated to minutes per game. Thanks for your indulgence, and I'd love to discuss what I say here with anyone interested, as I think it's a cool topic relevant to basketball matters north of the border. In this video, Sabrina mentioned not being sure how certain players, explicitly Luke Kennard and Amir Coffey, are going to get minutes in the Clips rotation with George and Kawhi coming back. She quite correctly goes on to say that those players could allow the Clippers to load manage, for lack of a better word. Those are her words. For lack of a better word, load manage Kawhi and PG. She is, of course, 100% spot on. The ability to load manage while still winning is accessed only through bench depth, and it will absolutely be the difference between failure and success for the Clippers and other organizations, to be sure. Our Raptors are in there too. Yet, as her other comments demonstrate, she misunderstands what load management truly is. And this is where I want you guys to chime in, because I'm going to totally put in my 2 cents in here. More like 50 cents or like $8 worth. She says it's weird that the Raptors play harder than everybody else.
Push it.
Milton keeping it and hitting the bucket.
Charge.
But they're going to call an offensive foul on Shake Milton
In the regular season, and that works for the first 82 games. Thus, as she says, setting an artificially high ceiling for themselves, suggesting that high effort does not translate to wins in the postseason, which is horseshit.
There's Achua up top, whoa! And Boucher flies in and handles it.
Not only is this utter nonsense, but she then goes on to repeat what she read somewhere about the Raptors last year. Specifically, she regurgitates this narrative that we've all heard. Fred was played too many minutes, and this directly caused his injuries, which hurt the Raps come playoff time. Thus, she concludes they should avoid doing this again if there's going to be success in Toronto. Now, I know this is popular, and there is, without doubt, sense to it, but hear me out and consider the baby before throwing it out with the bathwater. When you properly load manage, for lack of a better word, you don't necessarily limit a player's average minutes per game. Instead, as we learned in 2019 in Toronto, you play your players close to the amount that you expect them to play in the postseason so that they are conditioned to do so, and then rest them for full games. You determine how many games to rest them by coordinating with your training staff. Each and every player is different. I'll say it again. Load management is not about minutes per game. Instead, it's about full days off after streaks of heavy loads. It's about learning, chemistry, tinkering, and perhaps most importantly, conditioning. We're training marathon men, as I've said before. When you're training for a 10-kilometer race, you train for 14, not 10 or 9 or 8. You do more, not less. Last year, Fred, OG, GT Jr., Scottie, and even Precious were all load managed. Pascal Siakam was the lone Raptor not to be load managed. In addition to taking full days off, these players all logged consistently high minutes. This was not accidental. It was precisely the opposite of accidental during a year of development. And this was in order to expedite team growth. Again, load management can be done for numerous reasons: learning, chemistry, tinkering with lineup combos, conditioning, etc. In other words, it was preparation for the real challenge ahead, every future postseason to come. From now on, it was all about every postseason that comes after we drafted Scottie. This coming season, our depth could allow our top guys to log less minutes per game. And that possibility is definitely there because we've added Otto, we've added Wancho, we've added Thad for a full season, we've added developed players like
Precious.
We drafted Koloko, who I think is going to see some minutes right out of the gate. We got Delano and Champagny pushing for roster spots. We've even got Josh Jackson to see if he can recapture what he did for the Suns and harness some of that early potential that he had when he entered the league. But contrary to popular opinion, and this is where I get a little edgy, I think we're all going to be surprised to see that Nick Nurse and co will once again play our top players a lot of minutes per game for the aforementioned reasons. The difference I expect to see is that those players will receive more full games off than they received in previous years because of the improved supporting cast. But they'll still keep their high minutes. A supporting cast, by the way, who is better equipped to pick up the next man up torch and pursue W's with their eyes upon home court advantage and potentially a Larry. All while our top dogs take turns rotating to the cheerleader role, flexing their Mohair, body art, and Crocs. Here are the facts for those still reluctant to come over to the light side. And now we're gonna get into some minutes for those of you naysayers. So here's what they actually played. Okay, so what I'm saying is we played them less overall games, but much more minutes to condition or train or do other things, chemistry, all that stuff, okay? So here we go. Fred played only 65 games last year, but averaged 37.9 minutes per game. Once Pascal returned from his initial injury, he played nearly every game, appearing in 68 games and averaging precisely the same minutes per game as Fred at 37.9. Is this a coincidence? I doubt it. OG played 48 games and averaged 36 minutes per game. Now, some of you guys are going to say that he was out with injury, but he elected to have this surgery. He could have just carried on through the season, but knew that the team could handle his absence and even benefit from it by giving those minutes to some of the up-and-coming young guys, namely Precious, Delano got run, Champagny got run. We saw a run from Armani Brooks to see if he could be a shooter in the playoffs. The Raptors really pushed for a playoff run last year, and they wanted to challenge and make the Sixers have a run for it. They got in the playoffs and took the 5th seed out of nowhere. And it's true, the Raptors really made a push last year, and a lot of that push had to do with how many minutes their young guys, their fringe guys, actually got on the court in game time situations last year. Without that, without the early Precious Achiuwa running down the court and throwing the ball up stuff that he learned from, he'd never be there. G2 Jr. played in 70 games and logged an average of 35 minutes per game. Scottie, in his rookie season, played in 74 games and averaged 35.4 minutes per game. Even Precious Achiuwa received full games off in stretches, so he had chunks of games that he didn't play, after logging his major minutes in bursts. So he played massive minutes, and then he got games off in a row as chunks. Why? Not because of injury or fatigue, but to review his performances in the tape room and learn from his recent stretches of increased time on the court. He played only 73 games and logged 23.6 minutes on average, but when he was starting, his minutes were in the high 30s quite often, especially down the home stretch when he was preparing for an increased playoff role. And we knew we were maybe looking at a big like Emiid that would be the ultimate test for a small ball Raptors team, with big men being their ultimate kryptonite. Make no mistake, we did pretty well. We learned from that series. It was good. We all know it was good. We saw flashes of something very good. That's ultimately what load management is, conditioning your players for workload while giving max effort, but then giving them full days off in stretches for various purposes. But now let's address the elephant in the Toronto sports media room, the narrative that Fred's injuries to close the year are proof that he played too many minutes per game last year in general. I call fucking bullshit. Fred's initial injury was a bruised knee sometime around the All-Star break. Not a worn down, rusted, overused knee, a bruised knee, meaning it was caused by a specific incident involving contact which left him painfully bruised. This type of injury could have happened in Game 1 of the season. Ja Morant was sidelined with a similar bruised knee injury when he ran into Jordan Poole last year. Was that wear and tear? Of course not. Players play injured all year long. They also rest with injuries when the team deems it the best option. Injuries happen. Now let's talk about OG.
When you think of the state of Texas, what's your favorite part about it?
Well, about what?
Texas, the state of Texas.
Oh, just, what do you mean? Like, what do I like about the state?
What do you like about it?
I don't know. What do you like about it?
OG's injuries are further proof of what I'm saying. His injuries were also the cause of incidents, not wear and tear. That thumb, he could have kept playing with it. It was an incident. It wasn't wear and tear. What about the rest of the team? Well, they all averaged crazy minutes, yet they weren't injured. Aren't they, in actual fact, the proof that conditioning leads to less injuries in general, rather than more? At the very least, there doesn't seem to be a direct correlation between minutes per game and injuries, other than it simply takes some broken eggs to make some omelets. Finally, for the sake of context, in 2019, Kawhi Leonard played only 60 games. He averaged precisely 34 minutes per game. Kalo played 65 games that year and averaged, oh, is this another coincidence? Precisely the same as Kawhi. 34 minutes per game on the button. Exact same as Kawhi. You'd almost think someone was measuring it on the bench. And there was someone measuring that. Anyone who thinks that Nurse, Bobby, and the Messiah do anything by coincidence is a fool, in my opinion. The next year, with Kawhi gone, the team's bench was much less deep, so Kalo played more minutes per game at 36.2, but was still load managed and limited to playing only 58 regular season games. So his minutes went up, because we knew he was going to need to log more minutes with Kawhi gone, but he still got load managed and played even less games than the season he played with Kawhi. And that was not all due to injuries. It was load management. If you have an excuse to rest a player, you have to use that excuse to put them on the injured list. But a lot of times these injuries are stuff that you could rest anybody. If you look around the league, this happens routinely. So let's just make sure we're clear on what happened in 2019. In order to hoist the Larry, in 2019, Kawhi and Dr. Kyle both logged close to 40 minutes per game in the playoffs. Thank God, all season they trained for it and received the rest they got in between those games. Full games of rest. Banner is now hung, and last I checked, Draymond is still complaining. So in summary, like I said, you train for 14 kilometers if you plan on running 10. If you expect your players to have to play 40 minutes per game, you should be training for it. Our boys in the North are in amazing condition, and make no mistake, they will be prepared for heavy minutes come playoff time. Some may even get injured, but it won't be for a lack of conditioning. Fingers crossed we have our full complement and don't need our newly deepened bench. Here in the North, we're training marathon men because we want to control the pace of games. And pace does not just mean fast pace. It means controlling the tempo, the space, and time of the game. We're running for Larry again. And anyone expecting minutes to go drastically down per game is going to be disappointed, I figure. Perhaps it's time to start believing our own eyes and the stats instead of trusting to the narrative pushed by guys who watch highlights and regurgitate narratives rather than watching full games for themselves. I'm looking at you, Stephen A. Finally, I want to give two shout outs to two very special Raptors fans who happen to be YouTubers. The first is JJ Buckets, who hit 1,000 subs. JJ, congratulations. Secondly, to Mike from Logical Raptors Fanatic, who's a newcomer on the block. He just released a video on Chris Boucher and how he's emblematic of the Raptors' ability to develop talent in-house. Worth a watch and definitely worth your subscriptions and support. Cheers. The Gubstown Clink Road to 1,000 Subs contest.
Gubs! Bonjour!
Alright, so here it is.
Alright, so here's to all of you. And if you're at this part of the video, you're looking to potentially reel in a prize. So increments of 50. So every 50 subs, I'm gonna do another draw. And to do a draw, as I said, I'm gonna take people who have entered and I'm gonna put their little ball right in my bingo thing. So I will keep notes of who's entered. Now, how do I know who's entered? Well, here's how it's gonna work, guys. I have a Gubstown email. So here's the rules. The first thing you're gonna need to do is sub the channel, like this video would be a good start, and hit the bell. My goal is 1K subs. The next step is you're gonna actually email me. So the email is gubstown@gmail.com. You'll also find that in the video description here if you scroll down underneath the video. And what are you gonna email me with? Well, you're gonna email me and you're gonna tell me what your contact info is. I'll have your email, so that's good for the beginning. And then you're gonna let me know your YouTube handle so that I can actually see that you've subbed to the channel and hit the notification bell. If you've done both of those things, then you're helping my channel. Then I need to know that you wanna be entered in the draw. So you're just gonna say, hey, my name is Bob. I wanna be entered in the contest. Next, I need to know what's your preference. Do you want a Barnes jersey because you live in Afghanistan or the West Coast and you can't make a 905 game? Or do you want to come to a 905 game for tickets? And then next, rules-wise, you must be subbed to the channel and hit the notification bell. You also must be willing to appear on the channel. I'm gonna actually feature some footage from the 905 games this year. So we'll talk about the game and different things like that, and that will really help me out. Lastly, it's all about the Larrys, guys. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks for all of your support. If you have any questions or any of this doesn't make sense, just reach out to me, guys, and tell me what I'm missing or how I can make this an enjoyable thing for you. Thanks so much for your support, and to people that already subscribe to the channel, you of course should enter this draw. So some of you have emailed me in the past. Email me again. Just tell me, hey, I totally subbed to the channel. I can verify that. Many of us have spoken many times in the comments already or on other channels. Cheers and thanks so much. It's all about the Larrys. Serena's right about at least one thing, Kawhi. You're definitely going to see some load management with that deep bench in LA this year. This is Chef's Kiss approved. Mwah! And guys like that back in the mix.